Got an idea that keeps you up at night? Or one that makes people say, that will never work?
Perfect! That's what we talk about here on Innovation Fuel. So, let's get that conversation started. Welcome back to Innovation Fuel, where we explore the real decisions behind building ventures, technologies, and organizations that are shaping our world. Each conversation goes beyond the story and into decisions, trade-offs, and tensions leaders face in the real world. Our goal is to turn real-world experiences into applied learning through business cases, classroom integration, and ongoing conversations that follow how these decisions actually play out. Today, we're joined by Matthias Kucharska-Hulsmann, CEO of Tiebreaker AI. Matthias is building AI-driven infrastructure that helps organizations become audit-ready faster by turning complex compliances and vendor data into structured, decision-ready insight. Exploring one question today: how do organizations move from data to decisions, especially in high-risk environments like compliance? Galari.
Let's welcome Matthias. Thank you very much for being here, especially because this is one thing that it's really complicated for a lot of people. Maybe they don't understand what is it. So it will be great if you let's start with your journey and then let's talk about AI Breaker.
Thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure to share insights and to share and exchange experiences that we make as we go through life. Yeah, so I grew up in Germany, and after studying, I went to SAP as a technical ramp-up coach and project manager. I started before actually doing an apprenticeship, and then I decided to study again, and then focused on enterprise resource planning systems, ERP. And SAP, of course, is one of the big names there, or it was the market leader next to Oracle and some others. During that time, I got a lot of experience and quickly. So I was thrown into the cold water a bit, which was great because I got to do technical consulting, which was challenging because I was introducing a business rule engine where you generate coding instead of writing it manually. And there you come to a large company like Pepsi or also the US government. And so on and so forth. And then you're suddenly in a room with 10, 20 people, from experts to people who make decisions. And you always have this mix of people who want to see this move forward, and you have people who are more cautious about it. And so that was a very good experience because you have to understand and listen what their challenges are and to convert that into applicable solutions. So after this, I also did project management of integrating a company into SAP's processes. And I always had some projects and companies as well. So when I studied, I already had my own IT company, a small one, right? I mean, you help your carpenter with the IT systems and so on. But it was fun. I gave a few extra bucks and I got to learn a lot. And then one step more recently, when I moved to Canada, is I started an IT network company. That was also exciting because we had then hands-on experiences with defending against ransom attacks. That was interesting, gave me a few gray hair because we had to actively fight against the hackers. So they took control over the servers. We tried to take the control back. They took it back, the control. So that was fun. But it was also really interesting to see how, because I was doing then research in terms of like investigating where they went and what they did and step by step, because FBI was also interested because it's a large US company. Then also went back to SAP because my blood is a little bit blue. The company colors of SAP are blue. So then basically I started there as a people manager, building and consolidating centrally cybersecurity projects and efforts, just trying to consolidate the different streams. Now, in between, I needed a bit of break of all of this. And that's when I worked as a snowmaker on the mountain, 12 hours overnight shift, just to get out of there and do something else. And yeah, the jobs took me around the world. So I traveled more than 30 countries and had more than 800,000 miles on the airplane, celebrated my 30th birthday on the airplane to the client. So now I had a longer break and now I'm actually looking forward to go out again. Now with Tiebreaker AI, this is why I decided to leave my secure position and job and well-paid job at SAP is because certain things, when you want to build them, it is hard to do it in a big, large structure. Yeah. Where there's a lot of things going on. Like if you look at large corporate, they have to consider so many different factors and so many different stakeholders and so many different technology layers that it is sometimes faster. Well, it is faster by definition to step out and to build something on the side way. And basically, this was a decision from me then to do this because I knew that AI would be a game changer. So 2 years ago, I took the decision to leave the company and build this company. The name Tiebreaker is coming from tennis because we were playing then tennis and learned it. And Tiebreaker is basically the rule that helps you define the winner. So when there are two players and they're head on, at some point you need to make a decision. And the tiebreak is basically the rule that helps you to define who is the winner. And for us, the intention to use this name is to basically help our clients to be one step ahead and to just reduce complexity.
So tell us, Matthias, a little bit more about what is Tiebreaker and what problem are you solving?
So Tiebreaker is a SaaS solution, so software as a service. We are kind of a meta layer or sit between research and quality management systems or auditing companies. You have to comply to a lot of regulations as a company. So you need to make sure that you have security systems in place. You need to make sure that with suppliers you engage, that they are also complying to regulation. And as you know, especially recently, regulations can change sometimes in a very short time span. We see a lot of regulation and deregulation and re-regulation. So it is really hard for companies to stay up to date and see, okay, what is now actually the latest regulation and how, especially if I have facilities in different countries or states even, what do I need to do in this state or country to be compliant and what is my risk exposure? Mm-hmm. So imagine, how does an audit work? An audit is basically an auditor comes to your company, announced or unannounced, depends on the industry and depends on the type of audit. And they ask you, okay, look, you basically build a medical device, right? You have a device that hospitals use to measure the patient's heart rate, for example. Mm-hmm. So for this, you collect information, you collect data, personalized data. So show us how and where you store the data, show us what type of data you collect and so on and so forth. Now, the company must then show them what and how they do it. Plus also they must, for that, prepare a lot of things. So they must write and have policy documents. They must have evidence to show actually and to prove that the data is stored where they say it is stored and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of trails that they need to record. And then the auditor will come and ask specific questions. Okay, out of this, show me this specific part. And now it is really hard for companies to scramble and to kind of show this data, right? The specific data that supports the answer that they want to give to the auditor. What we do is we basically extract the data from all this trail, from these documents and other data sources, and we prepare them in a dashboard that is mapped against the requirement or regulation. For example, you say, okay, we need to comply to an ISO standard, International Standard Organization. Now that has a lot of chapters. So there has a lot of requirements. They are called controls. And these controls describe what you should do, but they don't tell you exactly how to do it. Now, what we do is we extract the data and the information from all this evidence and structure it in a way that we map it against this requirement or regulation. And then we give an immediate assessment to the customer to see where are my gaps. And because if you have all this data, and if you need to manually sift through, that takes a long time. We basically give them an overview of, okay, this is where you address it well. Here you might have gaps, or here you definitely have gaps because you have not addressed it.
This is very, very interesting as a person that used to be ERP product manager. So I think that this is very interesting. But we know that this is always a technology with something that you as a firm needs to have internal capabilities first. What internal capabilities the organization need to have before approaching you? Because Tiebreaker looks awesome. I mean, everyone's going to love it. If you say that, for example, I have an organization that have several branches, several different provinces in Canada with different regulations. So you have to match a lot of regulations. So what they need to have before coming to you?
Actually, not much. I mean, usually they have already some sort of documentation in terms of like, what are our policies, right? And these policies are often kind of some templates and are adjusted to what your company actually does. How the product works is you basically select the regulation you want to check against, right? If you want to check against ISO, I select ISO. And then I upload whatever I have. I upload the documents and evidence, and we do basically the rest in terms of like we structure it. We extract the data. and we map it against this specific control. And then that's already it. What you get is the gap analysis. And then we have an assistant, a policy assist, that is context aware. You know about AI. AI is nothing without context. Actually, it's all about context to some extent. It takes what you have provided. It takes the requirements that you need to achieve, and then it's comparing it. And we work a lot with auditing companies because they do the work. So this is basically a tool for auditing companies, but also end customers. And then we map that again. So from our customer's perspective, they don't need to have much because we also have templates that we provide that know the context. So they know your company and they know what you try to achieve. And then we can generate some out of that. So that's being said, we don't have access to our customer data. So this is also a very different approach. We don't want to even see their data because there is some resistance to share and upload internal documentation, even though some of it is not so critical, but there can be sensitive data. So everything is encrypted on the platform. We have no access, and even the application itself is communicating in encrypted messages.
Your clients are audit companies.
Actually, one province is our client. They provide, like every hospital and healthcare provider or practitioner needs to follow certain guidelines. And for them to provide a service to public, they need to prove that they actually do these things they have to do. So yeah, our customers are definitely partially MSPs, so managed service providers that provide compliance services to their clients. For example, in the medical space, it's you produce a medical device, and then you need to get it to market. In order to get it to market, it's a long time to bring it to market because of all these regulations and checks, and of course tests. We help reduce that. So our clients are a lot MSPs, but also end clients who just want to do an assessment and see where do we stand. And actually, we have a couple of really hot use cases that we are working on now, because as you can imagine now, regulation changes. What is the impact of this change to my existing projects and to my existing documentation? So that's what we're working on as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So I just want to again touch base on this part of the environment. So a lot of compliances are changing, as you're mentioning it, especially regarding AI. So how is compliance and regulation is impacting Tiebreaker, not the Tiebreaker's client?
Yeah, so what we do is we tap into the official regulations. So all those regulatory frameworks are publicly available. So you can basically purchase them, or some are free. So you have that base you need to check against. Now the real art is so our solution is not just a wrapper around an agent or around an LLM, because that wouldn't work. Why? Because we need consistent results. Mm-hmm. It cannot be that it kind of starts to diverge somewhere or starts to create things that are not really part of that mandatory content. And it also, we don't train it in that way, because by training, you skew the results as well. So I did futures trading a long time. And technical trading, you basically look at models and you train the models, but by training the models, you modify the models. It's a little bit like when you look at it, by looking at it, you kind of potentially modify it already. So we developed other approaches that help us to receive consistent results. Because if you ask the same questions 1,000 times, we need to get the same result. Otherwise, it will be hard. It will not be accepted in the market, because the auditors use that tool, and if they cannot rely on the results, then that use case would not fly.
So Matthias, when it comes to organizations, so we know organizations don't lack, they have ample amounts of data, but they lack clarity around this data. Where does the breakdown happen between information and action?
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's a lot of discussion in the industry around these topics. So what we see is that often now, of course, the topic of agents and AI is everywhere. The breakdown does not necessarily happen in the automation part, because you can automate a lot of things, but you need to be smart in what you automate, because if you automate the wrong thing, you quickly go in the wrong track. Now, the breakdown, what happens is that we address is, and we see is to extract data and prepare it in a structure that decision makers can make decisions based on. And then you can execute. And this execution you can do automatically. But to extract the data, this is actually a very complex part. And that's also the reason why we started a company, because without AI, it would not work.
Matthias, I want to know, and I want to understand that you are not AI agentic and you're not using it.
Correct.
Because...
We don't use AI agents because, like, if you look at AI agents, it's first you need to rent usually these AI agents, right? So you book a service. We decided very early against that because you can start easy and they give you some credits. Once you start to really scale up, the cost is really exploding.
No.
Yeah. Also, you basically outsource what you do, and the problems I see at the moment still with agentic AI is that you outsource the decision making, but the decision making is actually the part of the key. And also the context. Like if you look at AI, I always look at it, sometimes we complain that AI is not really generating good stuff. But why is it not generating good stuff? It's a very simple question, or like a very simple answer, because imagine yourself, your AI, right? So someone is coming to you random. You don't even know anything about this person and asking you something with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. You don't know which cultural background this person has, what industry, how is the style of the communication, to whom does he try to address it, and so on and so forth. This is a bit called prompt engineering, but even prompt engineering is very... AI needs context, because without context, everything is nothing. And so we don't use agents because also it is part of outsourcing. You don't really know what happens. You can have traces and then see what happened. And you have the concept of the man in the middle, or the person in the middle, or human in the middle. But it's not working for us, because also we want to get away from personal decision making on these topics also, because that would again introduce non-consistency that we try to reduce by introducing our system. Because otherwise we could have people do it as well. We could outsource it to lower labor cost countries, for example. I wouldn't really see the main difference. In the future, this can change. For now, we don't use agents. We use LLMs that we can swap, because they also develop, and sometimes they get better at certain tasks. See if they get worse.
So what I'm really curious about, Matthias, is how should AI be embedded into workflows that still have that human involvement in the decision making?
So this goes a bit, our approach and the approach we see working for now also is, because you also need it to be accepted. It needs to be acceptable what comes out of there. So what we really see working well is, for example, simple things like taking notes or consolidating and preparing you. Basically what we do is, instead of, imagine you have a topic that you need to address. You have 10 people working on a project. Every person needs to read emails and needs briefings of what are we going to do, and needs to go through documentation and emails and again and again and again. So every time before you have meetings, you need to prepare. There you need to read through a lot of stuff that might be relevant, might not be relevant, but you have to do it. Where I see it really creates the best value is to help you to basically as an assistant and a co-pilot or a collaborator to help you already prepare this, consolidate it, and then hand it over. And then you can, afterwards you made decisions, and afterwards you gave context, and afterwards you created content, or you engage with it. Then you can have automation. But also how to work with AI also needs to be learned, because you can generate a lot of stuff. We find most valuable is if you have a feedback loop. That's why the agentic approach is at the moment for us not working, because just take something that has been generated and challenge it with itself, with its own output. You will see it finds things that it can do better. And this is basically an iterative approach. It helps to understand the context better. And that's where I see AI or automation is into play. So it's not about taking decisions away, and vice versa. It is actually helping you to direct to the right decisions and giving you even more decision options. and consistency. Because what is also the reality in companies and systems is people come and go. That's why we originally had the idea of marking it
storing knowledge. Storing the knowledge.
Designing it like, International Space Station, because people come and go. Like you dock on, you work with it in a company, and then you do something else, for example, or something else happens. But we want to have consistency for our customer. Like as a company, you need consistency. Even if someone is coming new or leaving, you need to have a consistent record, or you want to keep that what the person has contributed, you want to keep in that space.
That's really great and powerful insight. And I think that it's a very good, to be honest, as someone, again, been in IT, I think this is a very great tool. But what is your challenge to grow right now?
Yeah, that's a key question. So, I mean, you hit a nerve here, because we had to go through a couple of loops as every disruptive technology in a way. You do fight a little bit an uphill battle in the beginning. And that's also something, if you build a company, you have to keep in your mind to not narrow down too fast to one thing, because you will need to see how the market is reacting.
Absolutely.
And sometimes even the type of customers are shifting. So we had a bit of an uphill battle, because first it was like auditors and consultants, which charge good money for the work they do, because it's responsibility and complexity. They saw us a bit as competitive, direct competition, right? Because now that's why we narrowed down and built it as a tool that really creates value for all of them, like for all of our stakeholders. That means for the organization, but also for the auditing companies and for the QMS follow-up systems. Yeah, so basically, you have multiple challenges to address. As the company, you need to do ICPs, so ideal customer profile might change a bit here or there. And also, it's an iterative process. And important is to listen to your market, but also don't listen to everyone. I mean, you can listen. Don't be overruled right away, because everyone has their opinion, and everyone talk to 10 doctors and you get 10
results or 10 feedbacks.
Right. And I mean, in a way, that's because everyone has their own context, back to context and back just background story and so on. So just in that matter, we did through a couple of iterations. Also listen and check what is the industry already doing, because I mean, we have like a couple of large competitors. So we try to see what can we do different as a USP, a unique selling position? What makes us and our product different? And also sometimes you don't want to engage in terms of like front on front, because they collected $500 million, but also they have to pay 750 or whatever employees. So they burn, they must sell a lot to make up all these salary payments. So you need to look at what is your niche in a way. And then also, it must not be competition. It can be complementary potentially, right? Depending on how you shape and build the product in a company. And that's what we focus now. So we basically build a meta layer, a layer that sits between, that is creating value that has not been done or is not addressed yet. And then you sometimes see, they're also starting to talk about this or that. But that's just the nature of it. And in a way, it kind of proves that you're on the right track, because that shows that the need is there, the value is there. And then also in terms of like personally, I mean, would I start it again? Probably not. Because you can't think that way, because otherwise you would never start anything. You have to take sacrifices, and it is hard. But you have also these moments where you see, wow, you get this client and you have been working so hard to get them. Or you go to a conference and you see a team all standing proud in front of what they do.
Yeah.
They believe in it. So same when you build a house. I mean, like I had friends, they built their own houses and they said, oh my God, I would never start it if I would knew all the challenges that would happen.
I'm really interested, Matthias, because, the next journey ahead, decisions. We talk about decision making. This is what entrepreneurs do on a daily basis, is try and take input in and make those decisions. So what are you actively working on through right now that will shape the future of Tiebreaker AI?
To be honest, I'm working on myself. There's a phase when you really need to grind, and then you start to realize, wow, if you keep pushing, I mean, as a entrepreneur and founder, you usually work 6 to 7 days a week. You can work around the clock. So you have to be careful managing your energy level as well. So I do personal health improvements to make sure I stay balanced, to make sure I stay fit and strong mentally and physically. In Germany, we have a saying like in a strong body is a strong mind. But so you need breaks. From a company perspective, we are now seeing traction. So we prepared everything for scale. So I went also through Japanese quality management trainings and studies and so on. You can do every mistake, but only once. It's what they say, right? So we basically try to learn from what we do. If we do something, we try to do it next time faster and more efficient. That helps us to prepare scaling. That's a little bit more effort upfront, but in the future it helps to scale. So we are now ready for scaling. What we focus on now is we look into getting 1 to 2 strategic investors. So not engage with investors. Because first I wanted to have a product live, used by clients live, and have an operative and efficient company. Only then I think it is right to ask someone to invest. But even now it's very, very, very difficult to get any investment. But what is great is that we had now large funds. I mean, they run billions of dollars, reach out and want to talk. So we are preparing on new use cases that really increase the value, sharpen our market positioning, make it clear, engage with our customers to get the return, the ROI, to showcase the value that the product is generating, and then look for 1 to 2 strategic investors. Optimally, this product fits in the portfolio, right? Mm-hmm. That's a strategic investor, and then take it to the next level.
That's awesome, Matthias.
We always like to end the show with a challenge. Do you want to throw a challenge out there to our audience that are listening?
My challenge is to cope, like to not take everything too serious. That is sometimes that was a bit what I had to improve and learn with. So I'm actually naturally a very emotional person. But I didn't know that I was so emotional in a way. So so what I do is I try to learn, and I actually use AI to reflect back to me of how I react, and I try to improve it. I try to improve myself, and I try to improve the engagement with it. So that's why I like what I like. And as a challenge, I would say, work with AI on a topic that you're excited about and challenge it back. So try to challenge the output you get, because this is, constructive criticism is how we learn, improve, and build better things. So use maybe your AI counterpart to engage with it. Take a bit the emotions out, right? There's time for emotions, and there's time for focusing on what you do, right? If it's a creative part, or if you work on something, or don't try to mix too many things. Cut yourself some slack and challenge AI and yourself in a condor.
So Matthias, for anyone listening to here who wants to learn more about or connect with you, how can they reach you? How can they reach Tiebreaker AI?
The best is through LinkedIn. I decided a longer time ago not to use a lot of social media, except my cat has one. But LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn, Tiebreaker AI, Matthias Kucharska-Hulsmann, and there you will find me, and then I'm happy to connect. Especially like I was the contact part between SAP and my ex-university. I was then also asked by our dean to teach at our university a bit. I really think that, and I was a Boy Scout long time and a Scout leader and a volunteer firefighter. So I think the big part is community and sharing and exchanging on an open level, with respect and challenge and support, that is how we strive as a community. And then, reach out, and I'm happy to contact and to engage and support where I can.
That was great, Matthias. That was great.
Same here. Really appreciate it.
So thank you, everyone. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel. Big ideas don't grow by themselves.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Share, and let's fuel the next one together.
Innovation Fuel is produced by JPod Creations. Find out more about the show at theinnovationfuel.ca.